Hello everybody, in today's video we will be working on a Minolta X-370 model. This camera came to us with a request to perform a standard overhaul. There's nothing specifically wrong with the camera. They are saying that it could periodically lock up. But I haven't noticed any of these issues, and I do believe that if it does lock up, it is due to the fact that it needs a lubrication, especially on the shutter mechanism. So what we'll do today, we'll disassemble it, remove the shutter, lubricate it, clean the magnet, and put it all back together. All right, so let's go ahead and start. First things first, we want to remove the battery. A little stubborn, so we'll use a different technique. Sometimes these batteries have been sitting there for a while and they get corroded, and the chemicals leak out of it that just get stuck. So let's see what we have here. Yeah, there's some residue in there that we'll take care of it later on. So in the meantime, we'll continue. All right. We'll also check to see if it has an old style or a new style capacitor. If it has the new style capacitor, which is aluminum capacitor, they tend to leak. I will just go ahead and replace it. If it's an old style ceramic blue style capacitor, it should be okay. Yeah, it's definitely an old style here. So since we're here, I'm gonna go ahead and replace it. There's nothing wrong with it, but who knows, in a few months or a year or so, it may exhibit that infamous problem with the leaky capacitor. So let's go ahead and replace it, put the new one in. Now these capacitors are commonly available online. They are rated at 220 microfarads, between 4 to 6 volts DC. Let's go ahead and solder the legs here. Okay. So that's it for now. So let's just remove the screws from the top cover. And again, in none of my videos I encourage doing it yourself, so to speak. I mean, you can certainly give it a try. I just don't want you to damage your camera unnecessarily. Or I've seen many times before where we receive a camera that a customer or a client or a dealer attempted to fix themselves, and it would have been a simple problem for me to fix, but it became so much more than that, and in many cases I would return it back as the damage to the camera was greater than I could anticipate or repair. So yeah, do be careful if you try to do it yourself, but it's mostly informative. All right, removing the ASA dial here. And all of our screws are out. Now this is going to be tricky because this is not a leatherette, it's more like a plastic cover. And I already see the cracks here. And yep, it just came off. So what we'll have to do is put a new leatherette style on it, which I do have, and I'll deal with it later. It just crumbles due to the age. Okay, our winding lever. Yeah, these are really good cameras. I personally like Minolta X-370, X700 cameras. And aside from this infamous capacitor problem, especially with a Minolta X700, I really don't see any downsides in this particular series. So I personally do recommend them. They're very inexpensive, but they could come with some typical issues that can be easily solved. All right, so we've got 3 wires here: green, brown, and orange. It's going to allow us to lift up looks like there's a little crack on the rewind housing. What I'll do for now, I'm gonna temporarily put a little, melt it basically, and later on I'll attach it to this plate so it doesn't come off. All right, so now before we go any further with the top, I'm gonna remove this strap holder lugs. So we can take out the front covering. And I'm gonna work on the bottom cover for a second. We got 3 screws here, 3 screws there, so 6 screws holding the power plate down. Go ahead and remove that. Two wires will be desoldered. Okay, so we're done with this portion for now. Now let's concentrate on the top cover. A few screws holding it down. Okay, and now this portion here, peel off the leatherette and remove a couple of screws. Okay, now the front lens mount cover. Okay, so we have 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, holding the front panel onto the body, and then we have 1, 2, 3 little white screws that's holding the shutter onto the front panel. So now as I remove it, it will basically loosen up everything, and I'm able to now expose it. So first things first, I'm gonna desolder this flash sync wire. Now I can carefully remove my shutter. There we go. So it's being held by 4 wires: black, orange, red, and white. All right, put this away, and here's my shutter. All right, let's test it. I'm gonna wind it. It's a little stiff for sure. It does require lubrication, but it feels normal, aside from it hasn't been overhauled in a long while from what it looks like. All right, so first things first, what I do want to do, this camera also suffers from a derailment of shutter curtains, okay? The reason being is because one of these shutter curtain guides, okay, strips basically, gets deglued from this bearing, okay, and that causes this off-tilt issue of the shutter curtain. What I want to do is preemptively, I'm going to put a drop of glue around where it could come off. Just this little tiny drop will do it. Okay, and same on this side as well, basically on both sides. And we'll go ahead and secure it like that and unwind it back. Okay, looks like everything is properly aligned. I'm gonna go ahead and release it. All right, so next step is applying some lubricants. And we'll do this next. Okay, it should be enough. Just make sure. So here's our electromagnet, shutter electromagnet. Okay, what we'll do is we're going to clean the anchor and the magnet itself, and then we'll put it back. Okay, everything looks in order. Okay, now we have our wires back. Let's see here. I'm gonna charge the winding lever. Then I'm gonna charge the shutter and we'll place it back into the front panel. Let's see here. Okay, it looks okay here. Now we're gonna secure it with the 3 screws. Yeah, as I mentioned before, the primary problem with this particular model would be a leaky capacitor. That's pretty much, I'd say, 80% of the issues in this particular model. But you might also see an issue such as film counter not working. That's another common problem, easily rectifiable. Some winding issues, but you know, not a lot, not a lot. That's why I typically recommend this camera to my customers and people who ask for an entry-level camera. We call it a student camera or a beginner's camera, whatever you feel like, but these are pretty good cameras that have both you know, ease of operation as well as, you know, good light metering, solid robust feel to them. to put this on yet. We gotta finalize the bottom cover, or bottom portion rather. Okay, now I'll go ahead and align the master gear here from the shutter to the winding mechanism. It's very important to properly line it up, otherwise you will be faced with one of two things: either undercharging of the shutter or overcharging. So we'll have to check and see which one it is once it's all put them back together. Okay, wires are in. Now let's see. We'll clean the viewfinder glass here since we're already here. It's a little dusty, so it would benefit from cleaning it. Okay, now we can put this contacts back here and take the top cover and we'll put the release button back in place. Okay, looks like it's well seated. So let's put a couple of screws for now, test it electronically, make sure everything works, and then I'll proceed to complete the reassembly. Okay, one of the things that I wanted to do is clean this battery contact here. Yeah, I've mentioned it before. If you guys plan on not using your camera for over 2-3 months, always remove those batteries, because chances are you will forget that they're there, and after about 4 or 5 months, depending on the temperature, ambient temperature, they might actually leak. So just a friendly advice. Got the electronics, so let's see if the winding and release works. So this is a fully electronic camera, will not operate without the battery. Okay, so as you can see and hear, it is releasing it, no problem. Now let's try a different speed, B. Okay, you can see that the camera opens the shutter fully. Now let's see if there's any undercharge. I'm gonna slowly advance it, and you can see perhaps that it opened up halfway. So that tells me that I have to realign the master gear. Hopefully I'm gonna go ahead and do it again. I'm gonna do it fully wound, and you'll see that it opens it up, no problem. Right here, I'm gonna do it one more time. You can see it through the space there. Okay. Now if I had a film in there and I would have wound it, sometimes it doesn't reach its maximum angle, and that's what happens. Okay, so you have this semi-exposed film. So that tells me I gotta realign it one more notch. And by the way, this is not always a remedy. Okay, a lot of times you will have that and you will align it, but you'll be faced with similar issue down the line anyways, because your shutter needs overhauling. Okay, all you did is basically just temporarily resolved it. After about 100 or 200 releases like that, it'll actually go back to a similar issue. Okay, maybe not to the same extent, but it's not a permanent solution, let's put it this way. So the shutter would need to be removed, lubricated, put back together, then you can line it up and it should work fine. So basically what I'm trying to say, there's no shortcuts. Okay. Okay. Secure it. All right. Go ahead and check the shutter speeds and runtime. It just needed a little bit of tightening. Other than that, it was really accurate, almost pretty much on spot. And as I said before, these cameras are actually very well built, aside from the issue that I mentioned earlier, and they do retain pretty accurate speeds as well as metering, so we shouldn't worry about that here, not in this particular example. Okay, now we'll proceed to clean the cover and the camera as much as we can. Again, we don't specialize in detailing, but I will do my best to cover, to remove any dirt or obvious signs of grease from the cover the best I can. Screen is pretty dirty, as well as the prism, but the good thing is that we can clean it from the outside. Okay, I'll put this away for a second. Looks perfect now. Yeah, as soon as I said that, there's a hair that got in there. This is the frustrating thing about these older cameras. You clean them, it looks perfect, and after customer receives it, sometimes they may notice some imperfections in there, but listen, that dust and debris that's collected over time there just finds its way in the camera during the transit time, so it's hard to really deal with that. All right, so lastly, what I'll do, I'll put a new leatherette mask here on top instead of the one that's been damaged. And that should wrap up our repair. All right, here's our Minolta X-370 camera. Thank you for watching.